My name is Steve Dillingham, and I will be leading this public plenary session. We have a great panel here, representatives from Norway and France and Portugal. And the title of this, or the focus of this discussion anyway, is Fish Bycatches and Byproducts as a Supplier for the Biomarine Industry. I'd like to just first thank Biomarine Convention for the invitation, and looking forward to a nice informal discussion here. We'll try to leave about 10 minutes or so at the end of this discussion. We have 45 minutes, so it's going to have to move quickly, but would like to take some questions or comments from the audience at the end. So feel free to be thinking about what type of question or information you'd like to have from the panel here. So we'll start out with introductions. Just very quickly on the panel, to my right, I have Ms. Isabel Guerra from Doca Pesca, Portugal, Carl Andreas Almos, CEO of Sintef out of Norway, Øyvind Filling Jensen, CEO of Nofima from Norway, and Jean-Pierre Rivry, President of IDMER from France. So I'd ask each, starting with Isabel, to give a short introduction of herself and her organization. Thank you.
Good morning. Bom dia a todos. I'm Isabel Guerra from the board of Doca Pesca. Doca Pesca is a public company that it promotes the first sale of the fish in our ports. At this moment, we are also the port authority of the fishing ports in Portugal. So we are implementing the good practices to promote the good conditions of receive the landing of fish, and to guarantee all conditions to the fishermen and the buyers to have a good market and to put the fish on the markets in the good conditions.
Okay, thank you. Carl?
Yes, my name is Carl Olmos, and I'm the CEO of Sintef Fisheries and Aquaculture, one of the institutes in the Sintef group. The Sintef group is about 2,200 people. We are running about 7,000 to 8,000 projects every year, have a turnover on about 3 billion NOK in R&D. We have people from 70 different countries. And of course, in Norway, when about 70 to 80% of the export income to Norway come from activities in the oceans, the marine science and technology, including the biomarine, are important research topics to Sintef, which is a private research foundation with about 8% governmental grant.
Thank you. Øyvind?
Øyvind Filling Jensen. I'm the CEO of Nofima. My background is in veterinary science and training in business administration. Nofima is an applied research institute, which is a private public research institute with the main objective of creating value for our clients and customers. We are currently around 360 employees of more than 200 researchers, and the main focus is in food science, aquaculture, and in fisheries and fisheries markets. The importance is that we also have a broad availability of research infrastructure, enabling us to work very closely with problem solutions for the industry. So A, on one side, doing advanced research, and B, on the second side, delivering results into the industry so that they can create value and make money.
Thank you. Jean-Pierre?
Thank you. My name is Jean-Pierre Rivry. I am the president of the board of IDMER, based between Norway and Portugal, in France, in west part. A nice country focused on fish, and we have a big experience of valorization of fish, fish farming from everywhere in the world, valorization of byproduct, and put it added value on byproduct. And we have a big experiences outside France with many contacts, partnership with different countries and different private companies.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll just take a quick second and give my relevance to the industry. I am Global Director of Alaska Mega Ingredients with Organic Technologies. We utilize the raw material from byproducts through our fishing company partners for making a very high concentrate omega-3, and our source is wild Alaskan pollock. I'm also founder of Aquapreneur, which today comprises aquapreneur.com, which is an industry portal. Aquapreneur LinkedIn group, which is over 2,000 strong, and a very large international network, which are really dedicated to supporting commercial innovation in marine bioproducts, marine biotech, marine ingredients. So, thank you to the group. And so within the theme of fish bycatches and byproducts, I'm interested to explore what each of your organizations is doing in that area, and your thoughts on the potential for gaining more utilization from a fish, utilizing the bycatch, utilizing underserved species, and that sort of thing. So Isabel, starting with you, tell us more about the role of Docapesca in this area specifically.
Docapesca, when you put the fish inside the ocean building, we have also the responsibility to have the best condition to choose the best fishes to the market, and also we have byproducts that you must maintain in good conditions to the other hands. So at this moment, we have 22 ocean fish markets in the fishing ports, and all these buildings have. We are improving to the cold chain to maintain the conditions of the fish to the market, but also the byproducts. Mm-hmm. And the byproducts is not the. We don't sell, but we transact 120 tons of fish per year, and the byproducts are 900 tons.
Oh, it's quite substantial.
So at this moment, the mainly tons are to the fish mill.
Okay.
The companies, we have some contracts with them, and we keep the byproducts in our buildings, and the companies keep out to the fish mill, mainly for fish mill.
Now, I also understand locally here there's a new common fishery policy with an implementation of a landing obligation.
Yes.
Could you help the audience understand more what's involved there?
What happens is the common European policy for fishermen is we are mandatory to progressive elimination of discards. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the next year, this obligation is just for the pelagic species like sardines, mackerel, and the other 2 years after, maybe it's possible to obligation of this discards for old species. I'm not so sure it is possible, because in Portugal, at the south countries of Europe, we have so many diversity of fishes that have not yet the real value, commercial value, that maybe it's more difficult to convince the producer to keep out and to maintain in landing all these species. So it's a challenge for us, but also mainly for the buyers and for the industry, to valorization of these species.
Okay. No, thank you. Carl, we're moving north here to Norway. How does Sintef look at seafood byproducts?
Well, utilization of byproducts, that is a long-living history in Norway. I'm that old, so I was also a part of this in the 70s, actually, when we developed conservation techniques for taking care of leftovers from the whitefish industry. Since that, we have seen, of course, a tremendous development. First of all, we are not anymore talking about waste. We went through a period when we were talking about byproducts, but I think the term today is rest raw materials.
Yeah.
What can we use these raw materials for? And I think during this period, the focus actually has been more and more upon utilization, because there are markets that has been developed. Long time ago, there was no markets, but we have an idea that we should use this for something from ethical point of view. But now we see that the markets are here. SINTEF's contribution here as a technological research institute is, of course, to develop the technology that can make it possible both to take care of bycatch and everything on board on the vessels. We don't have a good tradition for that, but today I think we have gone very far. Then, of course, also to develop the technology for producing different kind of products out of this. Both bulk products for instance, for the feed industry, but also products for human consumption, or further up in the pyramid where the value actually is being added until you are on the pharmaceutical products on the top. So SINTEF's role is a technology supplier, and I think we are quite unique in European society, at least, being a research institute focusing upon marine fisheries and aquaculture research, and just focusing upon technological development. Okay. So that's our contribution.
So obviously, in many of these industries, the feed market and such, it's a scale operation. So in Norway, how do you get access to the quantity of raw materials that you need for that, that industry to be successful, utilizing of the byproducts?
Well, we have three main fishery sectors in Norway. We have the salmon industry, of course, and from the salmon industry, there is 100% utilization of the byproducts.
Oh, that's very impressive.
Yes, and you can even feed salmon with salmon oil. Now, we don't do that, but I think that's possible. Secondly, we have the pelagic sector, which is also 100% utilization. We used to produce fish meal and oil, of course, but now a greater part of the pelagic species are going for human consumption. So we are filleting, and then we have to take care of the byproducts. So we have developed the industry for that. But the last sector, the whitefish industry, we still have some distance to go, because there we don't have 100% utilization. So to organize that industry in a different way from what it's organized today, and also develop the technology, the optimization techniques, so it is possible to take care of these rest raw materials and then put them into a processing part in an economic, feasible way. That is the main challenge right now.
Mm-hmm. Just taking from what you said earlier in terms of the main drivers, you talked about systems in place, and you talked about the technology that your organization and other organizations in Norway are working on. What about regulation? How does regulation play? Well,
regulation is, of course, an important part of this. But it's not, I don't like to see regulation as a driver for having a positive development here. Of course, from being a technologist, I would like to say, well, we should develop new technology and methods, so this should be easier. But the main thing, I think, the driver today, there are two main drivers, actually. One is that from an ethical point of view, when we look at the global food situation, for instance, we cannot continue not utilizing these raw materials. That is one thing. And the second one is, of course, connected to the first one. There have been markets coming up that makes it possible to make a profitable industry here. Mm-hmm. So regulation, okay, that is necessary, and so on. But there are other drivers. Yeah.
Okay. And Oyvind, in a fellow organization in Norway, I'm interested to know what your role, your organization's role in this full utilization and the value you bring to this, trying to develop this value stream?
There is, as Carl said, first of all, we have to utilize the whole fish and all the fish that is captured, taken on board. This means that you have to have a logistics operation and a handling procedure for taking care of everything along from the catch till you land it. As soon as you land it, it's starting a logistics operation where you have to bring it to processing facilities, which have to be state-of-the-art. And our role in this is by making an emerging industry capable of exploring the possibilities of utilizing the rest raw material. So there you need pilot plants, you need infrastructure, you need basic knowledge on both the capture technology but also on the preservation and the bioprocessing part to add value to the rest raw materials when they come out.
Well, all of this obviously takes money, funding and support. So where does it come from? Is it public support? Is it private support? Is it a combination thereof?
Well, if you want to develop an industry based on capture-based rest raw material, it has to be a partnership between private and public financing. The building of pilot plants is something that the industry in emerging states will not be able to finance themselves. But you have to build that kind of facilities with public support, and you have to have an industry who is willing to pay to use it, and you have to have public and private sponsors in the research development of projects going into the plant in the early stage. When this industry then matures, it's very clear that the business perspective to make it sustainable, somebody has to make profit along the line, and there is very clear that in the next phase the industry will have to put a value on what they are doing.
So you mentioned pilot plants. Why are pilot plants so critical in the value chain here?
Because in the building up of a new industry, there's usually very small companies, very with financial limited resources, and by having publicly financed pilot plants, you will be able to scale up and try out and do errors that you will not be able to do in a full-scale commercial production. So the pilot plants, they have to be a kind of large-scale research operations, but still so close to the reality and real life that you should be able then to learn. It's not to take the product just out from the lab and think that you can build that 2 billion or 200 million euro factory. There has to be a step in between, and that's why the pilot plants is an extremely important place to go.
And Norway obviously is a leader in this area. Carl mentioned about the full utilization of some of the species, but thinking forward, what do you see what can be done or what is being done to speed up the development, particularly in Norway, or maybe what you see globally, to further develop the value-added byproducts?
To speed up the development is nothing you can do by just pouring more money into it. You have to have a business rationale to speed it up, but you have to encourage the people to utilize the material that we capture from the ocean and make it into products that somebody is willing to pay for. And then the speed will gain like a snowball rolling down a hill. It becomes bigger and bigger. And as long as people see profitability going into it, it will develop from within.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Jean-Pierre, I'm interested in learning more about what IDMR is doing in the valuation of byproducts area.
In fact, historically, we have a big experience in our country in valorization of byproduct coming from chicken. because historically we have some problem everywhere in the world to valorize chicken byproduct, and it's a good experience we have. And we focus some private and public on fish, because we have this target in our country, and we have the experiences of transferring the know-how everywhere in the world where you found the raw material. For me, it's key to be close to the raw material: freshness, traceability, sustainability, cost, and quality, and especially for fish. So for me, it's very important to develop some pilot plant when it's possible, where it's possible, to use the local raw material with the local people, with the local know-how, and to adapt our process to the local business. And after, when you produce locally, it's possible to export, to be international, and to adapt your product to the market. And you save time and you save money. And byproduct is a good opportunity to put added value for everybody. For the producer, having some problems sometimes with the byproduct valorization, for industrial people, and for market.
So if I understand you correctly, when you started, you said that the industry started out with chicken byproducts, and using that technology to transfer that onto into the marine side?
In fact, we have some advances in chicken because it's the maturity of the business, and it's possible to use the same type of technology: hydrolyzation, separation, cracking, extraction of peptide, amino acid, molecule. So it's very interesting to adapt and to be locally again with the local raw material. For me, it's key. And as we have a pilot plant, it's possible to produce finished product for the customer having some market, some idea, and to put on the market the product before to put a plant, as my friend said before.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in the concept of borrowing the technology and advancements in other areas and applying them into the marine area to speed up development. And I would ask the rest of the panel if there are examples of that. I guess first in Norway, Carl?
Yes, it's interesting what's being mentioned here. But actually in Norway right now, it's the other way around. It's the fisheries and aquaculture industry with their technological development and their tradition for utilization of byproducts that is now being transferred to the agricultural part. So we are involved together also with Nofima here in large projects where actually the technology transfer is from the blue to the green sector. Another comment I would like to make is that this industry is a running industry today. It's about, I would say, approximately 100 companies, at least in Norway, based on these matters. Some of them are profitable, some of them are, of course, not profitable, but it's possible today to invest in the Norwegian so-called byproduct industry. That is available.
Shows the maturity of it. Oyvind, I saw you had an idea as well there.
Well, there's just one thing we have to be aware of. Carl said it's not a regulation that will drive this forward. But we have to be aware of the mixture of animal raw materials and marine raw materials in the processing from a public health point of view. So it's one thing is to have factories that are built along the same technologies, but one should be very well aware of the market situation, what is allowed due to regulatory constraints or regulatory limitations, say BSE or avian influenza or things like that, when you process marine material in the same factory. So there has to be a development, a co-development of having predictable regulatory framework if we are to move this industry even further down the road.
Okay, thank you. Just before, Isabel, I would like to ask from your Docopesca's perspective in Portugal, is there a tech transfer or being able to utilize this progress that's been made in other industries that it's being applied in the marine utilization of marine byproducts here in Portugal?
Yes, I think that all this development of knowledge are beginning in the two ways, from the green and blue. At this moment, in the industry and universities are working together to search and to find new products. The examples that you have with sweets and byproducts from fish. We have some examples from bacalhau, the industry of bacalhau, and we have some new products on the market nowadays. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just real quick, Jean-Pierre first. Did you have a comment you wanted? And then Oyvind, and then I'm going to turn questions to the audience. So please be thinking about what you'd like to ask the panel here.
One of the questions was how do we go ahead to speed up the development? And I think international collaboration is a key issue here. There are research facilities, there are pilot plants, there are infrastructure that is underutilized. And we have to move away from the professor and his lab next door into utilizing the national and the international infrastructure based on knowledge about what is available and what skill set does the people and the staff in the organization have. So with our National Applied Research Center for Bioprocessing, we are open for collaboration, and that can speed up the transnational and the bilateral development of this industry.
Yeah. Thank you. Jean-Pierre, just quickly?
Just to say it's very international, because everywhere you have somewhere a sardine, for example, in Portugal, but we have to take in consideration the quality, the fat content, the protein content locally. And we have to adapt locally the process. It's why it's very important to be local everywhere in the world for me.
Okay. I appreciate the comments from the panel. I'd like to now, in the remaining minutes, turn the attention to the audience. If there's anyone out there that would like to pose a question or make a comment to this great group, just raise your hand and I'll point you out. Here, start here in the front. Yeah, right. Isabel will share.
Thank you, William.
Thanks.
Carl, I mean, why you've mentioned that the whitefish utilization is not yet 100%, while salmon waste utilization is 100%?
Yes.
Any particular reason for that? And if you allow me also to, Jensen, please. You've mentioned also that the importance of the pilot projects. We share that. But in this particular industry, any standard to determine the size of such pilot? How can we say that we want this kind, this big, or this small pilot? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the first was addressed to Carl.
Well, I'll try. I mentioned the 100% utilization of the salmon. Well, I don't think there are regulatory aspects that have pushed the industry into that. But the rest raw material from the salmon fillet industry is still important lipids, proteins, and so on that are valuable compounds. So I think the main driver has been that there are markets taking the hydrolysates, the lipids, and the products coming out of this. So that's been profitable investments for the companies that already are handling this large amount of raw material. But I think it's also right to say that in Norway there are quite large corporations handling rather large volumes of these byproducts. And when you have a salmon production plant, of course you have a fillet line, but the byproducts coming out have also been through the same quality assurance and are in a very good quality. So it's quite easy to set up a production plant for having a continuous production of these products and then be able to support customers with that. Does that answer?
Yeah, and that is not the case in the other fish. I mean the white fish.
Well, in the whitefish industry, or the catch of whitefish is much more spread.
Okay.
So we have to handle this on board on the vessels and so on. So we still have a way to go there, and there are also some regulations and also some traditions in that industry for operating in another way. Yes, but we are improving, and I think in 3 or 4 years' time it will be 100% there also. But since you're raising that question, maybe I could also comment that, well, in Norway these raw materials are quite focused, but if you go globally, we know that it's about 8% of the total fish catch that is bycatch, but that is spread all over. So of course it's a tremendous challenge to get hold on this. And talking about pilot production, one way is, of course, as Øyvind here is saying, to utilize these pilot production plants. But for instance, our concept here is that we have developed a mobile pilot plant, so we can bring this pilot plant out to the industry that is interested to develop products from the raw materials.
There was a follow-up question to Øyvind. Could you just repeat that briefly?
The pilot issue, the pilot plants, it is certainly important. The size, any standard within the industry or under regulations to determine the size, the minimum size, I would say, for a pilot plant within for the same industry.
It's an interesting, how big should you build a pilot plant? It's asking how long is a string. It's from one end to the other. We've built a semi-industrial scale pilot plant with a capacity around 200 to 300 kilogram of finished products per hour. That means that you can scale up to a semi-industrial scale. But the clue with the plant is that you make it so flexible that you can take in frozen, fresh raw materials, you can take in blocks, you can take in slurry, and you can process it. And then you build the plant so that you can include or exclude different processing steps along to optimize your production for the finished product in the end, and whether you want to bag it or as dry bags, or you want to have it as refined oils. But it's going forward is then to have plug-and-play modules that you can include in the plant to make it versatile and flexible.
Okay, we'll take another question. Why don't you just... yeah, thank you. And then after that, if you're somewhere up in the top, just shout out your question once you're pointed at, and I'll repeat it so we don't have to pass the mic around. Okay, please.
Okay, thank you. My question would go for Øyvind. Talking particularly about Mozambique, now it's a country with a lot of fishing, and one issue that comes often in our discussions on aquaculture and where to find alternative sources of feed for aquaculture, this issue of utilization of fish bycatches and what we call in general trash fish has come. And together with that came some questions which would like to have some clarification. Like first, what would be the long-term effect of using those bycatches to the natural ecosystems in the sea? So how do you see it sustainable? Won't be running out of stocks of material after a while, the same way as fish stocks are decreasing? Then the next was that it seems that there's some sort of variability in the kind of fish species that you find there, which would cause variability also in the type of resources that you obtain from them. How do you see that, and how can one deal with maintaining variability, this having to do with traceability, for instance, and declaring what is contained in the feed that comes from those kind of resources? Thank you.
That's a very big question. When it comes to capture fisheries, I think it's very much linked to the mentality and the training of the fishermen and training of the society, that overutilization is not acceptable. It's like Carl said, an ethical question, and it's something that has to be embedded in the education of the fishermen and the regulators so that you don't overutilize the fish stocks. And in addition to that, then there is a technology development that we move away from raking up whatever comes in the trawler or in the purse seiner, but that you actually develop equipment that are more selective for the species you want to catch. And you have nets that allow smaller fish to go away, that you have good regulatory mechanisms doing it. And in that part, collaboration between technical institutes like SINTEF and more applied institutes in the food value chain like Nofima is very important. When it comes then to landing and which species and how to handle it, that is something that has to be looked at locally. It has to be developed with the local authorities and the local fishermen's organizations like Toca Pesca. It has to be adapted to the local needs and catered. But a very important part in this is training and education of those who are taking their living from the sea every day.
Okay, well, we're going to take two more questions, two single questions.
Good morning. My name is Miguel Heredia from Ocean Vision and Business and Investment Advisory Company. I'd like to put two questions to Jean-Pierre. I really think and respect the activity of IDMR, and I strongly believe you could be a valuable partner for us here in Portugal. First of all, I'd like to know how IDMR funds itself. Is it from public funding, the products you sell? Because it's a very thin frontier with the companies and the private sector. So that's one question. Another question is what kind of raw materials and byproducts are you looking for? And if you could give us an example of a product that IDMR has already produced and transformed based on byproducts and sold, it would be very, very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First, we have some public money coming from the region of Brittany. And the second part is industrial people. Because it's very important for me to have some guys involved in the business. So we mix both public and private. First point. Secondly, it's very important to have some collaboration outside our countries. As you said before, it's in this kind of problematic, it's very important innovation, new process. And collaboration, partnership are key for the success. Alone, it's not possible to do something and to put a real added value. Concerning our product, in fact, in Brittany, we have more sardine, more this kind of product. We have no salmon, just importation, so we have no salmon in Brittany. It's why we have a good collaboration in some different countries, for example, with tilapia, with the shrimps, but against locally. If you want shrimps, you have to go in Latin America or in Thailand or in this kind of country. If you want tilapia, we have something historically in Costa Rica, for example, based on the local production. If we speak about Portugal, you have a lot of sardine or this kind of product. I think it's a good opportunity, again, to transfer the technology we have in Portugal with the local guys. We need to have the public involved, and we need private company. And we have some discussion with some big group in Portugal to doing something, for example, in pet food. With some kind of fish, it's possible to have a very patent product for dogs and cats. You have the raw material here, you have the people, and you have the market. And for Portugal, it's very interesting because in Europe, you are in a very competitive countries. So you have the raw material, you have for sure the competencies, and if we compare with France, for example, you are very competitive. And it's very important for us to be involved in this project with a local partnership.
Okay, we're running over a little bit here. We did start a little late. We'll take one more question from the audience. And obviously a lot of these themes that we're talking about here, this is designed to be a broad overview. We'll be talking about more of these very topics in roundtable discussions this afternoon and tomorrow. So obviously you have a chance to ask more questions with your particular interest. So any other questions out there before we... very good. Okay.
Charlie Babington from Glycomar. You've talked a lot about fish. Can the panel tell us something about the situation with shellfish byproducts?
Who are you asking?
The whole panel. Anyone in particular?
Shellfish. We're talking about fish, utilization of fish for byproducts. Charlie's asking about shellfish specifically. Byproducts, utilization for byproducts and valorization. Any comments from the panel?
Manhattan was built on oyster shells. That's also a way of using shellfish. But there is projects going on, both using blue mussels, Middle and looking at bioactive compounds in shellfish for value-added products. So that's my answer. Yes, there is a possibility. But we don't usually eat the shell, and the most valuable rest raw material is actually the shelf itself as a source.
Anyone else? No? Okay. I want to thank the audience for your participation and your attention. I want to thank the panel for coming to this with some great ideas and good discussion, and I want to thank Biomarine for the opportunity for bringing us all together. So thank you very much, and this concludes the public plenary.